Serafini.
Ashley, thank you. Ashley, thank you so much for having me on the show. I really admire what you've been doing with America's Real Estate Show, and it actually falls in line with kind of my motto for this year, the year collaboration 2025. So thank you for having me.
Oh my gosh, thank you for saying yes. I know you have an incredibly busy schedule, and we are just so grateful and delighted that you're here with us today. And our topic is breaking into the luxury market, which is one of the toughest and hardest niches to get into in this business. Would you agree with that?
I think it takes time, it takes patience, it takes a lot of learning, but I think it's something that can easily be done with preparation, hard work, and a little bit of luck.
And a little bit of luck, right? So we're going to dive right in because we have a lot to cover today. So I'm going to jump to when you were about 21 years old. That's when I know you got into the business. You left a very secure job to pursue your profession in real estate. And it wasn't but a few months later that the market completely crashed. So I am just really curious, what kept you in the game? What kept you going? I know you're very tight with your family, and so I have to believe that a lot of that played into your mindset. So I just want to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Well, yeah, absolutely. Very lucky to have such an amazing family like I do. My father is an immigrant from Italy. My mother, an immigrant from Colombia. They came to the United States with a bigger vision of starting and creating a foundation for our family here. I think one thing that I would always say is that my parents always shared with me a mentality of not complaining, not playing the victim card, but rather becoming a problem solver. And I think that has helped me throughout my life, my career, both on and off the real estate market. I was in politics beforehand, as you mentioned, when I was 21. I graduated, I got into politics because that's what everybody does in DC. And then I learned quickly that it wasn't what I thought. And I think I had a friend who I played soccer with in college who was actively selling real estate in 2006 and 7 and said, you know what, why don't you come and see what it's all about? And I think that's what kind of helped me enter the space.
Yes, so that actually was going to be one of my next questions and I would love for you to share with everybody a little bit about your background with playing soccer. So I'm like, let's just take a moment to talk a little soccer and politics, which are both two very different types of games, right? But you mastered them both. So what did you take from each of those experiences that you feel really helped shape your career?
Well, I think on and off the field, as I was talking about before, you kind of get a mentality of what it takes to be part of a team, the camaraderie, and at the same time, that competitive edge. My father played soccer in Italy. It was always his dream, and he bestowed it on me to be able to do the same thing here. So soccer's always been a passion for me. It luckily opened up doors for me. I played overseas, and I got to play Division I soccer here in the United States. And I was always the captain. I felt that the leadership that you could kind of have the 11 men behind you towards one goal was always something special. And that's what I did when I got into real estate as well. I took that mentality, that competitive edge, I built a team, and I'm the type of leader that leads by example. I'm not there to say, do this, do that. I'm saying, this is what we're going to do, and then I rally everybody behind me based on what I'm showing them. I think that impacts and influences a lot of people a lot more vividly.
Mm-hmm. And it was one of your former teammates, as you mentioned, that did end up getting you into the business, right? And that's why you decided to leave politics.
Yeah, I think politics was wonderful. In DC, everybody kind of thinks they're going in that direction. My parents had a wonderful career through the government and through the Federal Reserve. And I think as an immigrant, they thought that that was the only path. So I got in it and I learned a lot. But at the same time, I felt like something was missing. I wasn't fully happy. And as we all know, in real estate, you kind of create what you want. And I think that's what I saw in my friend. I wasn't the type of person to be pushing papers behind a desk. I wanted to be out in the world. And that's what real estate allowed me to do. And at the end of the day, we're helping. We're a service industry, and we're creating so much for so many people. The American dream as immigrants was something huge that we all aspired to, and I was able to take that and help people in my community do the same.
So let's fast forward a little bit to 2008 when you got into the business, slightly before then, but as I mentioned earlier, the market crashed at that time, which really opened the door for you and your friend. Please tell me his name again.
Justin.
Justin, okay, so you and Justin, and you really found this niche, or you created it to get really proficient with short sales. So what would you say was one of the most powerful lessons that you learned during that time? Because I think that you and Justin really stayed in that niche for about 4 or 5 years. So you really did master the game of short sales.
So interesting enough, everybody remembers 2008, it was the Great Recession, right? I had gotten into real estate right before it happened, and then as soon as it happened, the sky came falling down. Everybody threw their hands up in the air. It was a very difficult time for many people. There were a lot of people losing properties. It was poor practices that were leading to it. And I had no idea of what else to do. I was in my early 20s. I figured out that if this was what the market was, I needed to learn a little bit more about it. So what I did was I was helping people that were in these tough situations negotiate with their bank to be able to try to get out of it. And I think that is what helped me see two sides of the coin, right? Real estate is a vehicle for wealth, but at the same time, it also is a tough time when people are in an uncomfortable position. So I was able to then help them by relieving some of that stress, that debt, and at the same time, it opened up my vision for what potentially could come from these properties that were underwater.
So let's now jump again to about 2013, and I just want to read a quote that you shared with me when we were prepping for our show. And at this time, you shared that the market started to shift around then, and that consumer confidence was slowly making a comeback. So I'm really curious, again, what gave you that perspective to see opportunities that others weren't seeing? And I think that what our audience is going to really take from today, or what I hope that they do, is that you never waited around for opportunities to show up. You were the one creating the opportunities.
And I think it stemmed from dealing with those short sales, right? I was in the front line seeing properties that were being sold at a discount, and they were properties in great neighborhoods, and they had great rental opportunities. So what I did was, I was young, I was in my 20s, not too many people were buying homes. So what I did was I looked for older people, whether it's my parents' friends, people in my community, and I said, I have an opportunity to bring to you in a simple matter of buying properties at, I'd say maybe 50 cents on the dollar, 75 cents on the dollar, and then that way you can buy it and rent it out, and we can create this cash flow. So early on in 2008, I started getting my hands involved in that, and then in 2013, I was at a point in my career where I was looking for the next step, right? An opportunity to level up. And one thing that I realized was that the average person buys a home every 5 years, buys or sells a home every 5 years. However, there's investors, developers, and builders that are doing it on a regular basis. So I went to a friend of mine, because I always say tap into your community, into your relationships, and say, what do you look for in a broker? So I talked to one of my friends who was developing homes, and he said, it's very easy. One of two things. The first thing, you bring me a buyer for my project, or you bring me my next project. And at early 20s, I didn't have these million-dollar buyers that were buying these new construction homes. So I said, what are you looking for in your next project? And they said, it's very easy. And they started describing these homes that I was negotiating on the short sale that I had sold to parents, friends, and other people in my community. So I went back to them and said, I know I sold you this home a couple years ago, but what about if I could say that I could bring you an offer that would net you a couple $100,000 more? Would that be interesting to you? And they said, yeah, of course. So I started brokering deals between builders and these homeowners, or investors at the time, of these small homes. They were very small. They're 3-bedroom, 2-bath, where the land was worth more than the actual house. And that's kind of how I made my way into working with these developers that were selling and creating these high net worth homes.
And a couple of really important things happened around 2015. And again, I'm just going to refer to my notes because these were really pivotal moments in your life. You shared with me that you read The 7 Levels of Communication and you met a builder. I think it was at a birthday party where you met. So really kind of all your connections were coming together. And so when I'm thinking about this, it's like this perfect crescendo, right? Everything that you'd done before is meeting this moment of opportunity. And again, you're getting ready to create your own opportunities. So let's break down really the exact blueprint, because as you just shared, when you met this builder, that's when this luxury opportunity happens. But you were able to create it because of 2 really important things: the numbers and the key questions of asking the builders. So let's now just really dive into sharing with all the agents who are watching and listening today, what are the numbers that they need to know and understand, and what are the questions that they need to know and understand to ask builders?
Sure. Preparation is key, right? You want to make sure that you understand what's important to these builders. When you're dealing with homeowners, it's a more emotional process, but for investors and developers, it's all about the numbers. So what I always said was identify a neighborhood where they're already in and then work the numbers backwards. So for instance, they've said, I like to look at homes, as I mentioned before, these ramblers. Acquisition price is probably right around $400,000 at the time, and my after renovated value is probably, let's just put it, $1.5 million. So knowing what that ARV, that after renovated value, gave you a starting point on how to run your numbers backwards. However, one of the key components that you always have to ask these developers and builders is, what is your cost per square foot? How much does it cost you to build these homes? And at the time, we could say, let's just use a round number, $100 a square foot. And we knew that in that market, the average home that they built was about 5,000 square feet. So then knowing that information, you could run your numbers backwards. 1.5, acquisition price, let's just put 500, 400, 500, 500 to build. And then the carrying costs, I always like to say in my market, is for acquisition and sale is about 10%, right? Acquisition maybe about 3%, and then when you're selling a property, usually about 7% with commissions and things. So let's just put 10%. So 1.5, 10% is 150,000, 500 to purchase the property, 500 to develop it, and then the rest is their net proceeds. So as long as you know these numbers, you can enter in and then run numbers backwards and tee up opportunities for these developers.
And so have you found that builders and developers have been pretty open into sharing their numbers with you so that you can actually go source a good deal for them?
Yeah, absolutely. And the way you want to present it is that we are a team, right? You are the builder, I'm going to be your broker, so I'm going to bring you opportunities. So I always make this analogy. You're truthful with your doctors and your attorneys, be truthful with your realtors, right? So share everything that you can with me so that when I go out there, I can scrub these opportunities for you and then come back to you so I'm not wasting anybody's time. So as long as you present it in that manner, saying, we are a team, please be honest with me so that I can go out there and work for you, they're usually very forthcoming.
And so what are some of the other key questions you would say that our agent community should start to learn so that they can really develop that language, right? So that they're really speaking the builder's language.
So aside from knowing the numbers, you also want to understand the type of builds that they do. You want to understand the architectural, the design, what goes into it, and also the study periods. Right? It's very important to understand how long their carrying costs are going to be. How long does it take for them from when they purchase the land, get the permits, start construction, and then deliver the product? So timelines are very important. And I think as long as you start understanding their pain points, meaning the builders, and how you can help them, then that makes it much easier to identify their next project.
Okay, and so how am I going to go about finding the builders that I'm going to approach to start developing a relationship with?
Great question. So they're everywhere. We live in an era where everything is at your fingertips. So what I would start was, drive around maybe the neighborhoods that are having these booms in new construction. They all have their sign out front. What we call is an opportunity to go out, walk the sites, and then normally in our market, they have the permits on the windows. So we're able to go ahead and see who took out those permits. And then you can go back in your database and really kind of scrub it to see who the builder is that's doing that project. A lot of times they also have signs in the yard. Just like us, we put signs in the yard, they have signs in the yard. Take down those notes. Aside from that, social media. You know, you want to track these people, follow them, friend them, ask them questions. And then at the same time, that's an opportunity for you to build rapport with them. Ask them, can I come out to your site? What do you have in the pipeline? I'd love to see what you're working on so that I could potentially bring somebody, because remember, they care about the buyer, bring me a buyer or bring me my next project. So as long as you have that dialogue with them, I think it's very transparent and they're very, very motivated to work with you.
So can you share just a few examples and really, help us and take us to a build site, right? And walk us through maybe a conversation that you've had before with a builder that you were wanting to develop a relationship with. Maybe we can just do a little, not a role play, but you can give us kind of an example of your exact dialogue.
So first thing you want to do is study the neighborhood, so that when you get there, just like any client we have, you can educate them or compliment them on the neighborhood. The simple fact, where it's located, what school districts that it comes in, why it's so attractive. So everybody does that already. But secondly, you want to look at the lot. The lot is super important. Is it flat? The topography. You want to compliment that when you're walking with them. You also want to talk about certain features that maybe you see before the construction. So I'm walking through opportunities of just pre-drywall. So I'm looking at spaces. I'm looking at ceiling heights. I'm looking at the windows. So as early on, you want to get into the site with the builder, because the earlier you get there, the more of an opportunity you have to work with that person. And then aside from that, ask them, what did they purchase this lot for? So that you can start running numbers in your head. Because remember, the most important thing is to be able to understand what is motivating this builder. And then when you're walking through these spaces, depending how far along you are in the process, identify the architectural design and style. As we know, you can have modern farmhouse, you can have contemporary, modern, traditional, colonial. There's so many different ways to be able to identify what that neighborhood really offers, but at the same time, why that developer decided to go that route. So really understanding that when you're walking those properties with them will give them a sense of clarity that they know that you are a seasoned professional and that you're seeing things before things are happening. Remember, we're visionaries at the time, just like the developer is.
And so when you're walking the property with them, again, can you kind of like transport us, take us with you when you've been walking a property with a builder or a developer, and what types of questions have you found yourself asking them as you're walking their project?
Sure. You want to know the dimensions of the room, right? You want to ask questions. Like anything, you want to have them start talking. My business partner and best friend, he always says, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? So just be quiet and listen. So if you ask probing questions, they'll go ahead and tell you everything that there is about it. So let's fast forward. Say we're already into drywall, they're already doing their finishes. You want to ask them questions. Oh, where do these cabinets come from? What type of design are these hardwoods? What type of window packages did you decide? Remember, there's a couple big things. I would say the windows are the heart of the home. And there are certain carriers that do special things with windows. Anderson, Pella. I mean, these are just large-scale things. So when you're talking to people, identifying brand names, they want to know that you know your stuff. So as much information and preparation you can do in advance, I think, is going to be key when you're walking through those sites with those builders.
Okay. Are you finding out at this point if they have a favorite architect that they work with, or some specific people that are maybe on their team? Are you finding that out?
That's a great question. So I actually prefer doing this before I even meet the builder. That's actually one way for you to get an introduction to a builder. Reach out business to business. Talk to the decorators, designers, architects, civil engineers, all these people that play a role in the building process have already developed the relationships with these builders. And a lot of times they'll give you a warm introduction. So many times I actually know the developer through these partners. So when I'm walking through it, I can say, you know, this architect does a great job. I remember seeing their property, and I'll name something else, maybe a past project of this developer. And he'll be like, oh, you saw that project? Like, yeah, I actually brought a buyer by, but you guys got it sold so quickly. So flattery is another one. So remember, preparation is key.
I love that. And so, I mean, I know I'm asking a very similar question, but it sounds like it's super important to also get to know the architects and the other professionals that are working with the builder and the developer. And so, what have you found to be your most successful ways to develop those particular relationships?
Yeah, so just reaching out to them. Also giving referrals. For instance, if you have an architect and you have somebody who needs to do a project, making an introduction. Referral goes a long way. To your point, I read a book called 7 Levels of Communication, and the title is Turning Relationships into Referrals. And again, starting with your small group, your community, and then helping them, in turn, helps you. So remember, help me help you. So when you're dealing with these professionals in this space, see how you can help them. It shouldn't only be me, me, me. It should be, how can I help you as well? So I think that business-to-business relationship goes a long way.
So when you mentioned knowing different brand names as an example, can you maybe take us back when you were first starting, right? And maybe you didn't recognize some of these brand names. What would you advise today? Do you keep a spreadsheet? Do you keep a journal? How did you kind of keep all this information top of mind so you could kind of go back and reference it as you were learning? And do you do anything like that, you know, similarly today?
Yeah. So when I first started, we used to go on broker opens, and this was an opportunity for our office to go out and see new projects. And I would definitely encourage going out and touring as many properties as possible, because I think that is where things start clicking. As you walk through the property, you start seeing trends and patterns. You know, you look at the pattern of the floor, the herringbone of the hardwood floors. You start seeing certain types of marble and countertops with the waterfall overhang. You start seeing things, the design in the bathrooms. And as you walk these properties, you become more and more familiar with them. So much so that I do that with my team. Anytime we get a brand new listing, our weekly meeting is at the property, because I want everybody on my team to know what we're about to take on. And then we walk through it and I make them say a couple things. I go, all right, guys, what was the wow factor for you at this house? And we're going through media centers. We're talking about, you know, grand 2-level story foyers. I mean, there's so many things that you can bring out of a home, a 6-car garage. I mean, whatever it is, but I want everybody to walk away going, wow, I loved this feature. Because then when you're going to show that to a prospect, you can, with energy, share what you love about this home and then instill that confidence and that energy into that potential buyer.
So I'm curious, when you are meeting with the builder, do you ever ask them what their favorite part of the home is or favorite parts of the home?
That's a great question, and yes, and they're more than happy to share with you, right? Remember, it's always about that wow factor, the hot button, and you always try to find what that is. So it's a great question when you're talking to builders, because they're the first ones to tell you what maybe they did different than somebody else in the market.
Ooh, I like that. That's a great question to ask. I mean, have you found yourself asking them that, you know, in not so many ways, right? Like, what did you do differently than maybe one of your competitors?
Or maybe you can just see it from projects that they've done, what separates them, and you can actually bring that to their attention before even asking them. If you do enough homework and enough preparation and you see some of the projects, and through the MLS we get a load of pictures and we can see what's going on. So again, before you meet them, do your homework, because then you can bring something else. You can say, oh my God, I recognize this from 123 Main Street, and then again, that registers with them. So remember, come prepared and come ready to flatter.
Okay, So now it's time to go shopping, as one of our top producers, Amy Lampman in Houston, would say. So how are we going to go find the teardown property or the little gem that you talk about? Because you're really talking about building relationships with builders who are probably going to want to find a property and tear it down and then build a brand new home. So how are we going to go about finding those?
Yeah, for me, it was really easy. After I've identified where they're focusing their searches on, I just drive around for dollars. I literally drive around and I look for the ugly little house in the community, because that ugly little house is probably the one that has the most equity, has an original owner, has maybe somebody who's willing to flirt with the idea of selling it. So literally go to the neighborhoods, drive around and look for overgrown landscape. Look for shutters and gutters that are hanging. Look for an old roof. Look for the ugly duckling in the neighborhood. Because remember, Real Estate 101 is location. But if you're able to find the ugliest house on the best street, that's the next opportunity. So that's one way that I love doing it. Aside from that, reach out to your network. You'd be surprised how many times people have to sell a property in one of the neighborhoods that you're with because of an unfortunate circumstance. Oh, you know what? Grandma is no longer able to live in her home. She's going to be moving in with me. She needs to sell her home. Well, guess what? Grandma's home might be a grandma special, as I call it, right? The old shag rugs, the wallpaper everywhere. You know, these are the opportunities that you want to tap into. So always remember, tap into your community, into your network. Leveraging your network is huge. You're going to hear me say that over and over again. But aside from that, you know, you can go on and look for certain tech features as well, right? I'm a big fan of looking at the back end. So if I'm able to find high sales scores, and one of the things I use, MLS, Remine, Deal Machine, there's so many things out there that you can use to see who's owned the house for over 15 to 20 years, who has X amount of equity in the home, who doesn't have a mortgage in it. I mean, those are just things that will help us identify high sales scores, and I think that's what we need to look for.
Okay, perfect. So I love how you're using your network, plus you're using some tech tools, like you just mentioned, Remine, Deal Machine. Shout out to all my friends at Deal Machine. I really do love that tech tool. So let's jump to talking about the art of the deal. Okay, so now we've identified the builders that we want to develop relationships with. We've found our opportunity, or so we think, right? The grandma special, the tear down, the gem. Now, how are we going to put all this together? And what I'm really curious about, if I'm an agent, I'm thinking to myself, how am I going to ensure that I do not get cut out of this deal? So how do I know what builders I can trust and are worth me developing my relationships with, and the ones that are going to view me as a partner and be very excited that I've brought them an opportunity and not want to cut me out? So how do we make all of this magic crescendo together?
Yeah, so it goes back to when you're reaching out to them and learning about how they operate, right? You want to ask them, how do you source a lot of your deals? And then you ask them a simple question. What happens if I bring you a deal? Would you work with me on the back end? Right? You want to have these conversations. I'll bring you this opportunity if you give me the listing, right? That's what you want to listen for. A lot of people will say, well, you know what? We have our own in-house salespeople. Well, those aren't the people you want to work with. You want to work with the builders that say, yeah, if you bring me the opportunity, I'm happy to work with you on the back end. So you say, okay, perfect. So have that conversation very early on. At the same time, you start seeing how people operate. Developers that work with a variety of different brokers, then you say, okay, that's probably the person I want to work with, right? Also, identifying the broker and having the conversation to say, what about if I bring you an opportunity, all the numbers make sense? Would you go ahead and allow me to assign that to you? And I bring this up for a simple reason, because if you don't know the developer early on and you're kind of wary of how they operate, one of the easiest ways to do it is find the property and put it under contract yourself. And everyone looks at me and they say, that's a little bit scary, right? But it's not, because you're able to put things in the offer that protect you. A feasibility study that says, give me 45 days to run my feasibilities to make sure that this is an opportunity that I want to take on. 30 days. I mean, it depends on what your market is. But once you have it under contract, and you're not just putting anything under contract, you remember, we're running the numbers backwards, then you can present it to the developer and say, I've got something under contract that I would love to present to you. Here are the numbers. Here's the spreadsheet. Remember, the pro forma is everything to the builder. I've already ran the numbers based on what you shared with me and your price per square foot. I think there's a margin of X. Does that look like something that you'd be willing to take on? And then right there, you have the power. Because remember, if you have it under contract or you have the opportunity, that's what the developer or the builder is looking for. That's the hardest thing for them to do. They don't have all the time in the world to go out and source deals. So they're relying on us to do that. So become very strong in that and very firm and clear on your numbers, and then you will be able to present opportunities and they will look for you moving forward.
So the opportunity has become your seat at the table. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I think by doing that, that's your value add. We always look for our value add. Well, if you're bringing opportunity to somebody and this is their livelihood, then they would be more than happy to pull you a seat up for you. So just think about, where is my value add?
So when we're out there looking for our deal, walk us through, and I know because this is exactly how you built your business, right? Walk us through some of the conversations, maybe some sample conversations that you have with potential sellers. And also I know you send postcards. Kind of talk to us about a couple of things on how you kind of get that door to open to have the conversation so that you can bring that deal to the builder.
That's the hardest part. The hardest part is actually convincing the seller that you are the right fit for them, right? We're driving around, we're driving for dollars, we're looking for opportunities, but then we have to go up and we have to door knock. We have to build rapport. It's not like I show up and then the same day they're like, I'll sell it to you. It takes time. You have to nurture, just like any client, right? But this is one that's even more wary of you because literally you just showed up. Unless it's a warm introduction, you really have to understand that this is probably going to be a little bit of a process. So what we do is we have a theory that if we send a mailer, we stop by, reference the mailer, and then follow up with a phone call, that's probably the best strategy. So what we'll do is we'll put together a letter that says, we buy homes in your neighborhood. You've probably seen them all over the place. All cash, as is, dumpster clause. That's something that we always say, like, leave whatever you don't want. We'll take care of it. And sometimes in a competitive market, we say, we'll pay your closing costs or your relocation costs. I mean, whatever makes sense, that the numbers make sense. So you want to be able to stand out from the rest because we all get those, right? But then the difference is once you send that, go and knock on the door and say, hey, you probably saw one of my mailers. I just wanted to come and introduce myself so that you knew I'm a real person. I'm not just a bot out here sending mailers to anybody, but I actually have a client and they've been dying to get into your neighborhood, and your home, I think, is the perfect home for them. And I'm not asking you to move tomorrow, but if you could just please remember me when the time is right. And then they go, oh, that's so nice of you. And then that's when you start nurturing it. And then you come by another time. Hey, I'm actually listing a home, I'm selling a home, I'm developing a home up the street. You knock on their door and say, hey, I just wanted to come and say hi again. And if you have an opportunity, I'd love to invite you to the open house that we're having. So you build these relationships, and over time, they start remembering you. So remember, there's a pattern. Send the mailer, door knock, and there's sites online that actually give you their phone number as well. Shoot them a text, give them a call, invite them, do a stop by, drop something off of value, give them a gift, whatever it can be, but build that relationship.
So after you have visited with them, and let's say actually, what if you haven't visited with them? What if you've gone to their home and nobody ever answers? What do you do then?
We actually have a hanger, a door hanger that we put on their door. That is basically in reference of the letter that we sent and just letting them know that we stopped by, right? And it's just a little door hanger, and it outlines the same stuff, right? As is, we buy all cash, we'll move as quickly as you need us, or we'll take the time that you need, and then please just reach out. And then we put it on there, right? knock, put it on there. Nowadays, everybody has a Ring doorbell. They see you come there. I talk to the Ring doorbell. I'm like, hey, again, it's me, you know. So I try to make it as easy for them, understanding that even though online it says they have a high sales score, that maybe just not the right time for them. But if you constantly check in and constantly are top of mind, they do remember you.
So can you give us an example of when you have received those phone calls back, or do they text message you? How have you found that they typically will get back in touch with you, and what do they say when they are ready to have that conversation? Yeah,
they call you. Calling is the number one thing. Hey, I got your mailer, I got your flyer, I got your door hanger. Thank you so much for staying top of mind. We're flirting with the idea. I would love to know, more about what you're offering. And then I go, perfect. So now this is a very sticky situation. It's just like going in on a listing appointment. Great, I would love to stop by so I can see your home. Obviously, I've only seen it from the outside, but this would give us an opportunity to actually get to know each other so that I can learn what's important to you and I can share what's important for me. So if it is a grandma special and I know it's a perfect fit, I've asked them questions on that phone call. When was the last time you updated the home? What is the current condition? What would you say if you were going to stay in the home another 5 years? What would you do to your home, right? Because if they start talking like that, then they're basically giving you an outline of things that need to be done. And if they tell you everything, oh, I'd love to do the kitchen, I'd love to do the bath, oh, I'd rip up the carpet, oh, I definitely have to do this, then you know kind of what the interior of the home looks like. And if it is in line with what you saw from the exterior, then when you show up, you bring an offer. And if you can bring an offer to them right away, you say, listen, I love to hear what is important to you, your timeline. But before I leave, what I want you to know is that I'd like to offer you some money for your home. We'll do it completely off market. And this is an opportunity for you to review it, take it to your attorneys, take it to anybody you need, your family, your kids, your heirs, whatever it is. And then that way, you at least have something in hand. And if this isn't the right offer for you, let's talk about it. So give me a call back. So you leave them with a leave behind, and it's actually an offer to buy their home.
Okay, so everything we've talked about up to this point has been really about the how, right? How am I going to break into the luxury market? And really just to kind of summarize what we have visited about is that this is the particular direction that you went in, is developing the relationships with the builders and really putting together the art of the deal. You have been sourcing your own opportunities. And is this something that you're still doing today? And is this the path that you would still recommend to any agent that wants to get into luxury?
Well, getting into luxury is such a loaded question, so open-ended, right? Some people are born into luxury, right? Their family, their background, everything. I wasn't that way. So I had to figure out a way that brought me a seat at the table, to your point, right? Mm-hmm. And there's so many ways to break into luxury, right? As I mentioned, you're born into it. The second one, maybe you have relationships with athletes and entertainers and celebrities, and maybe that's your in. Other people find a way like mine where you create the opportunity. And what I learned was that if I were able to help these builders build these beautiful homes, and I'm talking about 5, 10,000, 15,000 square foot homes with all the bells and whistles, it's just like any listing. You leverage the listing and then it attracts the buyers. And the way you do that is by, for me, finding the opportunity for the developer. And I think what was beautiful about that is that's something that maybe you can do across the nation. Again, you create the opportunity, you create the inventory, and then that allows you to move forward and break into luxury, as I did.
So that is a perfect segue into what I would consider kind of like part 2 of this strategy, which is you've created the opportunities, and now how are we going to go market this beautiful luxury listing, because you've made an agreement with the builder that you get to be the listing agent. So how are you going to leverage the listing, to your point, so that you can build your brand, and you can start building other opportunities in your network of people, right? Because while there is only one buyer for that particular home, there are a lot of eyes looking at that listing. So let's talk about that.
So you want to start marketing the property even before shovels go into the ground, right? Because it's a long process. So what most people fail to do is they wait till the final product is done. I think you're already too late when you do that. What you do is you sit in with the builder, you get the floor plans, you get the layouts, you get the renderings, the photos of them, and then you have them, as I call them, spruced up and make them look good, even if it's, you know, a drawing. But then you can leverage that and you can start putting it out there. So when I'm working with a builder and I know it's going to take 8 months to maybe 12 months to build the house, I'm putting it on the MLS already, right? I'm putting it on there with the renderings and the floor plans, and I'm starting to attract people. And I think that pre-market or pre-construction marketing is so important. But then let's say it didn't work, and now you take it off the market. In my market, 61 days resets the days on the market. So about 61 days before the completion, I take it off the MLS. It doesn't mean that I'm not still marketing it and working it, but it allows me to refresh the MLS so that when I come back on the market, it's the beautiful brand new house. And then that's the sexiness in it, right? That's when you make the videos. That's when you do all the content. We bring in the Ferraris, the Lamborghinis, and all that. We have the models jumping into swimming pools and doing, the whole lifestyle image of it, right? That's the easy part of it. But the key is to capture and create a narrative for it. Because one thing you need to understand about luxury is it's a lifestyle, right? The luxurious people, they dress a certain way, they drive a certain car, they live a certain life, they jet set across the world. That's what you want to paint a picture in. And usually with these homes, they're entertainment paradises. So at the same time, throw parties at these properties, right? And what we like to do is we create a theme. Sometimes we bring in a live sushi chef and we bring everybody in and they're making sushi right there in these gourmet kitchens. And each roll is named after something, the builder, the architect, the street name, whatever it is. Also, what we do is we create and we think about what is the top 1% of maybe consumers that would come in here. What do they love? What are they passionate about? We throw art shows and art exhibits on all these walls, and we get local artists to come in, and then they bring their entire following. And another thing that we've been doing, and we actually have one coming up next week, we actually create Content Day, where we invite influencers and top agents to come in to the property and take content. And we bring in our videographer and they bring in their videographer, or if it's just a cell phone, iPhone, it doesn't matter. But what we want to do is bring as many people in there as possible. So there's so many ways that you can leverage this in an effort to bring traffic and, more importantly, curate the right people. I'll tell you one thing that I do in my market. It's a very heavy international market. So I understand the value in networking with other brokerages overseas. So not only am I collaborating, because this is the year of collaboration, with other brokers outside of ROA and Realty of America, I'm reaching out to all the top 1% luxury brokerages around the nation, and then I've curated a list of all the ones in the Middle East, in Asia, in South America, everywhere around the world, and I'm sending them these videos. And one thing that I'm doing now is I have a very diverse team. I have people that speak Spanish, I have people that speak Arabic, I have people that speak Mandarin Chinese, I have everybody. So now what I'm doing is I'm creating little reels about the home in their native language. And I'm sending it to the brokers overseas as a way to break down the barriers. So I'm curating and creating these relationships with all my peers, but at the same time showcasing the property.
Well, you are definitely a master at marketing, and you yourself speak 3 languages, English, Spanish, and Italian. Is that right?
That is correct.
So I'm curious to know, is there like a favorite event that you've thrown that just comes to mind?
Well, you know what's interesting? One of my favorite events, and it's so, I think it's more the family man in me, because sometimes what I like to do is thank the neighborhood, because I always tell them, thank you for your patience. I know it's not easy living next to a construction site. So what I do is I throw a block party for the entire neighborhood. And I bring in a food truck, and I bring in moon bounces for the kids, and I have the fire department shut down a little portion in front of the house, and I invite the whole neighborhood. And it's amazing how many times I sell a home to a neighbor, and I get an opportunity to meet that neighbor showcasing this brand new construction that we just did in a event for the entire community. So for me, I love those kind of launch block parties.
So do you do this before or after? When are you kind of doing that type of an event?
As soon as it's done, right? As soon as it's done, I get my stager in there. It looks beautiful. I actually now have a model home to show off to the neighborhood. And I always like to laugh. I go, you saw the home that was here before then. And they always laugh and they're like, thank you, because it was an eyesore, right? So now we have something mutual to talk about. They're happy because now their valuation of their home went up because now they have this brand new $3, $4, $5 million home in the neighborhood.
I love that. So this is really the very first event that you do before anything else.
There always needs to be a launch, right? Just like a headquarter launch or a brokerage launch. Well, guess what? A home needs to have a launch as well. And this is what you do. You leverage all the marketing material that you've put together. You curate a list of the top producers in your area, the people in your database, the people that are outside of the country. You invite them too, because you never know who's going to show up. And that's always an easy way to celebrate the builder and celebrate this new property.
So let's shift just a little bit because I'm looking at the time. I can't believe we're almost at time. And I want to refer back to my notes and again say that you just mentioned luxury isn't just a price point, it is a lifestyle. And it starts with the brand, how you talk, how you carry yourself. So speaking of brand, I have heard a little bit of a buzz going on at Realty of America, and you guys have been working on something super undercover. So I thought I would just take an opportunity to see if there's anything that you can share with us today.
Well, for those of you that don't know me, I was brought in as a co-founder, but also as somebody to help launch the luxury division over here at Realty of America. So we've been working behind the scenes with some of the best marketing team that I've worked with, and we're coming and putting together a luxury brand for Realty of America. And I can't talk too much about it, but a couple samples just went out and we just redid them and they look so good. So I'm actually going to get on the horn with Mark Demas later today and Eddie to make sure that we can go ahead and launch that for you. But I think everybody's going to be super excited once they see it. And then that's just the first step, right? The brand is the first step and then the fun happens. And then we're going to get on the radar of all the top luxury outlets that are out there, and we're going to put Realty of America on the map as a luxury brand as well.
Ooh, I love that. You heard it here first on America's Real Estate Show. It is coming soon. Okay, so we're going to take just a quick little pause. I like to call it just our little commercial break. Live streamers, please do not go anywhere. We have two very special announcements, so I would love to welcome to the show. We have a special announcement about a career night that is coming up. So let's say hello to BNA. Hello, hello.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Once again, my name is BNA Soto, Director of Agent Development here at Realty of America, Illinois. I am a proud DACA recipient, and today I'm celebrating 2 years since I quit my job and left the wireless industry to pursue a career in real estate. My passion is to help new individuals start a career in real estate. So therefore, I am happy to announce that we are only 6 days away from our most anticipated career night happening here in Illinois, May 22nd at 6 p.m., the exact date that I started my career at Realty of America. So if you are in Illinois or in the Midwest area and you would like to attend this event, it's totally a free event, and you're looking for a career change or you're looking to start a career in real estate, this is the event you do not want to miss. So I strongly encourage you to register at the QR code that's going to be shown in the screen, or reach out to me directly and I'll be sure to save your seat. So help us invite anyone that's looking for a career change. Thank you.
All right. Okay, I'm going to ask my production team really quickly to put up a QR code to ask questions. So our live streamers, if we happen to have just a couple of minutes at the end, we would love to take any of your questions that you have for Andres, and I know he would love to answer those for you. So hopefully our production team is going to put that QR code up, and if for some reason it is not working, there's a phone number right on there. Just use that phone number to text in your question, and it's going to come right here to my laptop, and we'll check it out in just a couple of minutes. Okay, and so now I would love for you to help me welcome to our show a 30-year veteran in the mortgage industry. Please say hello to Miss Irma De Leon.
Thank you, Ashley. Andres, I want to share just the thoughts that came to my mind when I heard your story of your parents being immigrants, coming to this country, getting involved, politically, which is amazing, and then I can visualize you being a young soccer player, but at that time, you were also learning these qualities of being a leader. And here you are today. They taught you how to be also a solution-oriented individual. And today you stand before us or sit before us with this great success that you have an awesome team and they're multilingual. You've definitely built a wonderful business, and I want to say thank you for being here today and congratulations on your success. Let's give them a hand of applause. Hi, my name's Irma De Leon, and I am a 30-year veteran in the mortgage industry, and I'm also a proud parent of 2 amazing sons. Today I'm going to come to you as a lender and a business partner. As we all know, NAR made a little bit of a difference in our lives now that it went into effect in August of 2024. And it helped define who is going to be paying commissions, right? It gave transparency on that. So if the seller is paying commissions, great. The sales contract will define that. But this is when I really need all of you to be sure that you send in the buyer's agreement along with the sales contract, because the buyer's agreement is going to define the amount that will be paid on behalf of either the seller or the buyer. So the sales contract, if it shows that the seller will pay 2.5%, but the buyer's agreement shows 3%, there's a deficiency of 0.5%. So if we don't have the buyer's agreement at the time that we verify all the assets, that might cause funds to be short at the closing table. So we want to make sure that you're paid. So please make sure that you send in your sales contract along with the buyer's agreement. And then as your business partner, super important to make sure that your closing commission statement goes to not only if you're in an attorney state, the buyer's attorney, but also the title company. There's a lot of people that seem to think that if you send it into the lender, that we're going to make sure it's on the closing disclosure. That doesn't always happen. So make sure that you do send in that closing commission statement to the title company. And again, if you're in an attorney state, that you send it into the buyer's attorney, so they make sure that it's on the master statement and also then on the closing disclosure. Because as your business partner, we want to make sure that you get paid. So I hope you found that helpful. And remember, continue to thrive in 2025. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Irma. Okay, if you are in the Chicago area and would love to learn more, please use the QR code that our production team is showing you and text in the code word SunWest. And Irma and her team would love to help answer any questions that you may have. She is an amazing business partner. As I shared at the beginning, she's been in this industry for more than 30 years. She's also an attorney and just wicked smart. You want her on your team. Okay, so let's shift gears. I'm going to look back at the questions that have come in, and I've been kind of summarizing them in my head as we've been going. And so I'm going to start out with just kind of a fun question that came in. Thank you to this agent. He wants to know who your favorite soccer team is.
Oh. I had the privilege of growing up. My father, as I mentioned, is Italian. He played at AC Milan, and then I was able to play for AC Milan's youth team when I was younger, and they've been near and dear. So Rosso e Nero, Forza Italia.
I love it. Yes, yes. And would you please share with everybody, because this is just really kind of a fun fact about you, that you even played on the Olympic team.
Yeah, so I played ODP growing up. I had a very long career, luckily and gratefully. Started very young, playing very competitive. I was captain of the ODP team, the Olympic Development Program. played on the #1 soccer team in all the nation, Soccer Club of Baltimore Bays, and then that opened up a door for me to play Division I soccer at University of Maryland, Baltimore. So very, very excited and great career. So
I love that. That's awesome. And this is just kind of another fun question. How about one of the biggest listings that you've ever had? Could you share with us maybe something that really just catapulted your career?
yeah, absolutely. So on the single family front, I was able to represent an NBA All-Star. He was being traded, and we were able to successfully sell his home, a beautiful 15,000 square foot, fully amenity home. We actually sold it in record time. Usually people ask me, do homes sell fast, or do they take time in that price point? Well, this one actually sold on record time, 2 weeks. We were able to do such a great job marketing the property that we got a blind offer. Blind offer meaning he never stepped foot into the property. He was relocating from Houston, Texas, and I remember the first time he saw the property, we were signing documents at the home. And he looked at me and he was like, you know what, this isn't the first time I bought a home without seeing it, but this is definitely the most expensive. So I looked at him and I said, must have been a hell of a marketing job. And he kind of just laughed with me. So, and that right there, propelled my opportunities. And now I'm actually dealing with one property that will literally be life-changing and something very exciting to do. We're under NDA right now, but we're getting close to structuring one of the biggest deals across the country, which I'm very excited to hopefully bring to Realty of America.
Oh my gosh. And now I know I feel like I'm asking another exclusive question. Are you able to share where it is, a little bit about it? I mean, any little teaser about this development? Because I'm sure you're probably under an NDA and can't say too much, but maybe there's just a little something.
Well, it's in Las Vegas, Nevada. It's going to be amazing. And the beautiful thing about this project is that it came together through opportunity, leveraging the house that I just mentioned to you with the NBA All-Star player. But then the community that we have here at ROW, at Realty of America, I told Mark about it, about the client that I had. He put me in contact with somebody. And then internally, through our connections and our network, it actually created something that is going to be monumental.
Wow. Well, we cannot wait to hear what ends up happening with that. So make sure we'll have to have you back on to talk about
With
that.
pleasure.
Oh,
we'll all celebrate.
Yes, we will
In
all
Las
celebrate in Las Vegas. Ooh, I like your style. I like your style. Master marketer and event planner. I mean, this
They
is
come hand in hand.
right? Exactly. This is all blending together. What would you say, maybe just as a final wrap up, that you really want everybody to take with them today? Because you certainly did share a lot of information.
You have to believe in yourself, right? It's a mindset from the very beginning, because everyone always asks me what it takes to deal with these high net worth individuals. Remember, we're all human, and we all are going to be proposed with opportunities throughout our life. So preparation is key. Make sure that you know that you deserve a seat at the table, but as long as you prepare in advance, you're going to be able to articulate your value. So remember, preparation is key. When the door opens, walk through it confidently and understand that you're there to help, service, and provide value.
When preparation and opportunity meet, right?
That's right.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. Give him another huge round of applause for being with us today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. This has just been an incredible journey to get to be with you on. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing all of your success and your secrets to success and your strategies and the things that are working right now. So I'd love for our production team, if they haven't already, to put up a QR code to your Instagram page so that anybody can DM you, right? You welcome it, you would love it. Do you want to say a little bit about that and what you have? Because I believe you put together really kind of like a little luxury playbook that everyone here today in our studio audience and all of our live streamers can access if they DM you.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is the year of collaboration. I've already helped other brokers across the nation when they're preparing for these high net worth listing appointments and whatnot. So please understand, reach out to me. I'm here to help. That's what kind of my dedication and contribution has been to collaborating with agents across the country. So please do it. The best Instagram for me is actually my team. It's the Washingtonian Group. So it's the_Washingtonian_group. And I think for all business related stuff, that is the best way to reach out to me. And then that way we can go ahead and collaborate, and I can help answer any questions you want.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. We are incredibly grateful. Okay, well, we're going to close it out. So that is a wrap for today. Meet us right back here, same time, same place. So next Friday, 11 a.m. Central, we will see you here with another top producer. And the best way to follow us and find out who's next is to follow us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel, America's Real Estate Show. Thank you again for being with us today, and we will see you next week. Bye for now. All right, thank you.